Hello, everyone. How are you? I'm curled up on the couch here with the dog by my side. She's kind of buried into my armpit. It's funny how dogs do that. They just know the warmest part of your body. So her little nose is sort of digging in to the little gap where my t-shirt meets my arm, and it's in the armpit. Um, and so I'll have to stay in this position for the duration of this entire podcast to not risk waking her up. And what this podcast is all about is your questions. It's very kind. I got a bunch of questions from you guys, so I'm just going to answer them. And I typically feel that I'm better with questions than with just talking about things. Like when I do workshops and when I do one-on-one work, it's all questions. And there's something about when a question comes my way that I feel, because I've less time to prepare, because I'm just responding with what comes first, there's less of my big, messy personality gets in the way. It's just, I feel like it's a clear communication. So let's touch wood and hope that that's how this podcast goes. So people have, you've also included your names. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, rather than give out exact names, I'm going to do like a little abbreviated version of your names as I'm reading your questions. So I'm going to start here with Eslas, whose question was how to be more Irish. And that, my God, is really the simplest answer in the world, yet actually the most profound one. And it's to understand that Irishness is just the specific game that you have incarnated into, right? You have to understand here, Eslis, there's two things going on. You exist in two places at once. You are here on the planet and you are somewhere else, in another dimension, in another vibration, still connected to this planet, but not bound by it. You are of the world. You are in the world, but you are not of the world. So your way to be more Irish is actually just to be more yourself. This Irish thing, this Irishness, is a constantly changing force. It's mutable. So whatever you do, coming from the container of Irishness, whatever you do, in any way that you move, as long as it's authentic, you will be becoming more Irish. You'll also be stretching the parameters of what it is to be Irish. You know, I feel like this is the beauty of non-nostalgic art, creativity, and music, is that it pushes the boundary of what it is to be Irish. An interesting thing today, I was looking at the front cover of the Irish Times, and they were talking about how, these tailbacks and queues to get into the Cliffs of Moher, and how the touristic experience in Ireland is somehow broken. And it's broken because of a lack of imagination. It's broken because people are kind of retroactively going, well, what would be Irish? Oh, this would be Irish. This would be Irish. And as all of us know who live in Ireland, there are other cliffs. You know what I mean? There are other spectacular vistas. There's other places you can go. It is not only the Cliffs of Moher. And there's something about this, in the same way that clever tourism would involve a kind of an expansion of the parts of Ireland. You know, I read this thing about how like the Midlands are becoming like a new focus in tourism, and how the bog as a kind of a central place of regeneration. And I grew up on the bog and I loved it. I used to find the bog like a Tibetan plain, you know, and the old quote was that you could look from the bog in Kildare and bar, like apart from maybe like a piece of barbed wire, you could see all the way to Galway. Do you know what I mean? And it is this beautiful plain. And here I am with my bog romanticism, but to come back to your question, Esles, the way to be more Irish is just to own who you are and just express that. It's not about it's not about music or language or dancing or anything like that. It's about those things are all beautiful aspects. It really is just the dream that wants to be born in you. Can you bring it to life? And that will make you more Irish. The next question. Pepper asks the question. She goes, at the moment, my partner is really struggling with toxic friends and negativity. He recently changed his career. He was a nurse and now he's a lawyer, and he said he feels isolated. So, guys, there's a problem here. And the problem is this, and it's beautiful to care for our partners, but we have to let them do their thing. You cannot work out somebody else's karma. All you can do, Pepper, in this situation is it's way more interesting to know what's happening with you. You say, my partner is struggling with toxic friends and negativity. Are you struggling with that? Because if you're struggling with that, then there's something we can work with. You you cannot change people, but you can attune yourself. What does attune yourself mean? It means you can just be like, imagine you're in an orchestra and you're paying attention to everybody else's instrument, but you forget how you're playing. That's what happens in relationship. It's what happens in society. Guys, you have to know how you sound. So when other people are playing and you're playing with them, you have to be paying attention to your rhythm. That's what attunement is all about. If you're connected to you and your feeling and you prioritize, I'm soothing myself, then the others don't matter. It's a real tricky situation, this, and I understand too, like I deeply, deeply care for the people in my life, and I have suffered tremendously by trying to fix partners. Jesus Christ has suffered tremendously, and they suffer too, because people don't want to be fixed. They want to work out their own karma in relationships. But what you can do is you can support the person, and you support the person by maintaining coherence inside your body. So when your partner spirals, you don't follow them into the spiral. When your partner is drowning, you don't dive into the water. You just stay on the edge and you say, I'm here. I'm here. Because we do rescue ourselves. We ultimately rescue ourselves. And yeah, so Pepper, love your partner, but love yourself first. Really, that's the thing. Staying with partners, Katie has another question here. This is good. Having a foreign partner and how Irish people receive that. Well, guys, here's the first thing. As Irish people, we typically have low self-esteem. It's interesting, all the new racism in Ireland at the moment. I don't want to sound glib when I say interesting, but it's fascinating, you know. And what this is it also shows a certain level of new confidence in Irish people, because before, and the confidence is just that there's now poorer people coming into the country, and so Irish people are kind of adopting a sense of superiority, which maybe they didn't have before. Now, I don't want to get into the whole migration thing here because I have lots of different ideas on it. But what I want to come back to is this idea of Irish people and their low self-esteem, and how that shows up in a relationship, depending on whether you classify the person as better than you or not. Now, so typically for Irish people, when we move into, if we're in a relationship with someone who's from like another European empirical country, like a colonialist, we're probably going to feel worse than them. We're probably going to feel that, oh, this person knows things better than me. I know myself, like when I first left home, and some of my first relationships, I was with an Italian partner, and I just felt culturally I had nothing to offer. You know, when I talked about food or things like that, I would always defer to her. I'd be like, "Oh, you're Italian, you know better." And the same thing when I went to Germany. I've just found myself very dominated in relationships by other people. Dominated because of my low self-esteem. So I would always be in relationships with someone who I would put on a pedestal. I would hierarchalize their way of doing things, um, in a way to reinforce this sense of shittiness that I had about myself. So that can be really difficult. The other difficult thing is we go into relationships with subconscious expectations. Irish people, the way that we operate with each other, we have a whole code. We have whole systems, you know, our way of like offering and refusing and offering and refusing and then saying, oh, please do take it. And then we go, okay. Or even the way that we kind of we receive help, but then we have to return the favor immediately. We're so shit at receiving. But we have a secret code. It's an unspoken thing that we have. Where we don't talk about ourselves. We deflect praise. If someone says, "Oh, you did so well," you go, "Oh, but you did really well." We never take that moment in the limelight, and so because of these things, we expect this is what normal society is. It's not. There's people out there who are very confident. There are people out there who have been told they're amazing by their parents. There are people out there who knew affection. So when we go into relationships with others, we can find ourselves judging them because of their confidence. We can also find ourselves feeling overwhelmed by their ability to love. Jesus, I know me, like in relationships with other countries and people who were very comfortable with touch, people who were very comfortable with expressing their feelings, and me, a little repressed fucker from Kildare, I would be, Jesus Christ, she's going a bit fast, or oh my God, like what's getting into her head? Why is she saying she loves me? And things like this, because I just didn't know how to receive those things. So having a foreign partner, I think, for many ways, is going to be your biggest lesson in your Irish conditioning. Um, and I would also just say, again, like the advice that I sort of gave to Pepper, and a little bit like what I said to Esliz too, like play your own instrument. Just be aware of what's going on inside of you. Keep you the center of your universe. Um, there's Clue Bay, an interesting name, has asked about the feeling of not being good enough or feeling others are better. And isn't it amazing how that tied into the last question? So you got to understand that this is nationwide. We're all like this. None of us really feel good enough. All of us run the risk of feeling others are better. These are just big, huge Irish themes. And you don't need me to tell you why they're that way, but just to recognize that they're there. You know, they're there in the same way that you might have the thought in your head of, I can't sing or I can't dance. And you have to challenge yourself. I grew up all the time thinking I couldn't dance. And as a traveler who's lived in all these different places, I would go places where people just danced naturally. And I'd always feel like, what the fuck is wrong with you, Connor, that you just cannot dance? And then for a while, as an experiment, as I feel much of my life has been an experiment, I lived in a commune, kind of a cult. And a big part of the practice of the cult was just this ecstatic dancing. They would dance all the time. And I would stand there with them as they all went fucking wild, hippy dippy shit, like, and hands in the air, legs everywhere. And I felt so wooden in my body. But after weeks of doing this, I began to not care. And it was beautiful. And then I realized I can dance. It's grand. I can totally dance. There's no not dancing. And this is the same thing, Clue Bay. You have to just do the things that are holding you back. You have to do the things that you think you can't do because, oh, I'm not good enough or others are better. You just have to do them. And you do them with great courage. And that's it. And then all the walls fall down. Wafer has asked a question, and her question, his question, I don't know, is what to do with this feeling of being self-effacing. And again, self-effacing, it's self-deprecation. It's this thing that we do, and it's a submissiveness. It's a don't hate me. Oh no, no, I'm gonna punch myself before you punch me. And it's all just low confidence crap. You have to love yourself. And then you have to build your confidence. And the way you build your confidence is doing things that are just a little bit outside your reach. Think of it as growing. You're like, oh, I couldn't go to the gym at 6 in the morning. And then you go to the gym at 6 in the morning, you do it. Or you start off, you go at 7, then you go at 6:30, and suddenly you're going at 6. And then maybe you realize, Jesus, it was never the gym in the first place. I hate the gym. It was something else. So you keep on just thinking, make a big list of all the things you think you could never do, the things that are outside your reach. Saying no to ma'am, quitting smoking, running a marathon, writing poems, posting a video on Instagram, going a whole day without food. Write a list of things, quitting your job, and then slowly tick them off. Start with the easiest. Be kind to yourself. Start with the easiest and slowly do them. And in that way, your confidence will bloom. That's how I did it. It's just thinking of things. God, what would be another thing that I really want to do? Connecting with your body. This is the thing, when you tune into your body, you tune into your own rhythm, you realize I have wants. And then you connect to those wants. And then you've got a goal. And then you follow that goal and you do it, your confidence grows. Hannah wants to know about how to break the patterns of abuse and the tribalistic attitudes of family. Well, I think you just break them inside yourself, Hannah. Do you know what I mean? And again, you just come back to you. Like, if you're recognizing these patterns, if you're recognizing these tribalistic patterns, then those patterns will no doubt be inside you too. Those patterns will no doubt have, sorry, I had to just check on the soup there. Leftover soup, after Christmas. I thought it was boiling, but it's grand. It's on their simmer. These tribalistic attitudes, and that the things that we dislike are also kind of going to show up inside ourselves. So I think, like, again, this is a big part of this sort of connecting to your imagination. I really feel like our way out of so much of the mess is innovation and imagination. Our way out is by imagining different ways of being and then modeling that. And that's it. We imagine a different way of being. We imagine a different way of relating. We imagine a different way of being in marriage. We imagine a different way of educating our kids. We imagine a different way of earning a living. We imagine a different way of eating. And then we model that. And in that way, we create this new pathway. And then other people spill onto the pathway and they follow you. And this is it. When I started doing this work and I started talking about energetics and I started talking about all this sort of esoteric mad shit, I didn't think I'd get an audience, but I did. And people who come along and do sessions with me and are on my Patreon and stuff, they're way more advanced than me in a lot of these things, and they're way more radical than me too. And it's so encouraging because I see in them, God, this is a whole new way of doing things. Karen, lovely question. They're all lovely questions. They're all lovely girls. No, Karen has a lovely question, and it goes, I'm always feeling like I'm in trouble or I've done something wrong. Oh, Karen, did you go to an Irish school? I bet you must have. We all get this. Our education system, do you know what I mean? We grow up with so much authority. The church, the priest, the police, the schools, and you know what I mean? We're educated to just not make mistakes. So much of our education, so much of our families like reinforce this because they're all like, don't you be getting in trouble in school. Don't you be coming home in trouble. You know what I mean? So God, we're so of course we always have this lingering fear of what if I get something wrong. Um, and that requires soothing. It requires some soothing and it requires some work and it requires just really you learning to be okay with yourself, learning to be okay with it. You know, for a long time, I used to always have a big fear of police. I think it's because my dad got in trouble with the police a few times when we were growing up, and also because we lived for a while in the north. So, you know what I mean? There was soldiers and stuff and that. And what I would do was just, I'd approach police. So, like when I lived in Germany and stuff, I'd just go up to, if I saw police and I'd ask them for directions. And it was kind of like, or like not so much in Ireland, you know what I mean? But when I moved abroad and I remember living in Germany, I had a feeling of like, God, the Bundespolizei, they're so intimidating. And I was just like, I don't want to get into this relationship. I don't want to give them authority. So instead, I was like, I'm going to use them. And so I'd see police out in the street and I'd go over and I'd say, excuse me, do you know where this is? Or do you know where this is? Or what about this? And I just normalized communicating with the police as a way of reducing my fear of them. Um, and I do the same in Spain where I live. Where I go, if I see police, I just do hola or something like that. So you got to come up with your own way of exploring your relationship with authority because this is going to be so important in the future. You know what I mean? It's going to be so important because I feel there's going to be an amplification of authority in the next few years. And our way of working with it would be just to ignore it. Birking has a question, and her question is what to do with passive aggression. Well, yeah, I mean, just get better with conflict, I think. You know, like passive aggression is just such a cowardly way of moving through life. There's just got to be better ways of learning to be direct and learning to have your conversations. Also, passive aggression in many ways just comes from, you know, when you have when you've sort of like allowed someone to overstep a boundary and then it's a little dig that you come in with the end. Just hold on to your boundaries. Stay firm, stay in your power, love yourself, play your own instrument, be aware of the rhythm you're playing in the orchestra of interconnectedness. Just be aware. Am I in tune? Am I in tune with myself? And then there'd be no more need for passive aggression. Jenny asks, I don't feel like I belong in Ireland, but I don't belong anywhere else either. And Jenny, I hear you. I know what you mean. I've often felt that way. I felt the loneliness. Trust me, like the deeper you go in the spiritual path, the lonelier you become in many ways because you just sort of see through the game. You see through you see through a lot of the falseness of life. And all I can say is if you don't feel like you belong, the trick is to work on your relationship with you. I'm at a funny stage in my life now where it's interesting. I feel I have less friends than ever in my life. Um, and and that's okay. You know, I have I think at one stage, and now I have a lot of Gemini in my astrological chart. So I'm a chatterbox and I'm a total social butterfly. And my friends were always my sense of security in the world. And I would always have, wherever I went, more friends than I can handle. I feel like Jesus, I could have written so many books if I didn't have such a high need for friends. It just meant that I was always socializing, always getting coffees, always catching up with people. But now I'm at a stage in my life where I don't have, by my previous standards, a lot of friends. You might look on the amount of friends I have and go, Jesus, he's more than me. But by my previous standards, I had much less. And that's simply down to the fact that I'm way more interested in the rhythm that I'm playing. And I have less time to spend playing music with others. I want to be more aware of my energy. And the more aware of my own energy and the better I am at treating my own energy, the more I feel like I belong. even in my relationship with my partner, we're 2.5 years together now. We have different places, we have different hubs, you could call it. We kind of share our homes, but we have different spaces. And it's because I just cherish being in my own energy so much because it's where I get to do magic. When I'm in my own energy, I get to manifest and create. And that's so important for me, as it is for her, you know? And with that, I really feel like I belong. So let's look at this. Um, yeah. Last of the remaining has a question, and it's all about how to live with parents as an adult due to the housing crisis. It's difficult. It's difficult, but you have to be careful here. There is a timeline where you are not living with your parents. So there is another version of you that has found something that is more aligned to them. So the trick here is to realize that you have stumbled into another script. A lot of people are moving home at the moment. This is becoming a little bit of a collective, an unconscious collective thing that is happening. One generation are punishing the next. And what we need to do as individuals in this situation is, again, imagine something different. Things are breaking down. The traditional way of housing and developing is breaking down, but it's creating the opportunity for something else. And if you go back into that home, that family home, with a sense of this is over, my life is over, I hate this, then you're just going to keep on creating resistance in your frequency. When I talk about frequency, what I really mean is like we are energetic beings, guys. We're energetic beings. If you go around and you've got a face like sour milk, you know what I mean? You're going to have a stinker of a day. That's your frequency. You're going to go out and you're just going to attract shite. So your frequency is really important and you have to protect it. And the way you protect it is you go home, you go into that situation. Maybe it's your worst nightmare. I'm now at home with my parents in my old bedroom. And you keep your vision. You go, no, I am choosing a life of abundance and ease. And I say this, and if you haven't done energy work and if you don't know some of this stuff, it's going to sound so pie in the sky. But this is what we do. Like if in my Patreon community, w- we're just training how to do magic. And training how to do magic, we're training how to like shift the material reality. So you're in a situation you don't like, you remove your focus and energy from that situation, you bring it onto something in the future, and that future manifests. That's what we do. If you've no experience of this sort of stuff, you're gonna think, wow, Connor's really talking out his arse this time. But it is possible. And that's what we work on in my Patreon group. And that's the advice that I would give here is that there is another reality. There is another reality that is close to the reality that you're in, and it's more optimal. It's better suited to you, but you have to you have to feel that inside your body. Your state, meaning your physical state, the rhythm you're playing in the orchestra of life determines the reality you experience. If you're at home living with your parents, then clearly your state created that. We can blame it on economic circumstances as well. We can do all this. And I don't want this to sound like I'm being harsh on people, but there's a way out, and it's the same way that got you in. You change your internal state, you change your frequency, and you magnetize, you call in a whole new way of living. It's very possible. Um, and the last question, from Katie. And Katie asks, how do I let love in? And Katie, it begins by very simply taking care of your body. Only eat food that loves you. That's the first step. So when you're putting food in your body, just go, does this food love me? And if it's a Mars bar and a kebab, maybe you go, oh shit, this food doesn't love me. And this food might actually not love me in the slightest. You start to just do things like that. You you take care of your body. When you wake up in the morning, as you move through the day, you dance with your body. God, the amount of hours I've spent just dancing on my own in an effort to let love in, to just let my body move. See what these wooden arthritic Irish hips can do. They can do a lot, by the way. So can yours. Um, and then it all comes to, and then move to your language, Katie. Move to your language. Support yourself. Love yourself. Do creative things. Draw and then say, that's a great drawing. Write poems. Make it all about yourself because that's really it. Again, the reality you encounter is a reflection of the love, is a reflection of the relationship you're having with yourself. I know that I would never have received the relationship that I have now, a relationship where my partner really loves me, but I would never get there if I wasn't self-disciplined. I would never get there if I didn't take care of myself. I really take care of myself. I'm very kind to myself in terms of just what I allow myself to do. I make this podcast. It's an act of kindness towards myself, especially because I don't go back and edit it and I don't really prepare it. I just allow myself to make this thing. And I then don't go back over it with a critical eye going, God, Connor, you sound like a tool. You know what I mean? That's an act of love. I'm letting love in that way. The other way to let love in, Katie, is to just be super aware of what is not love. I've set some huge boundaries in my life with all of my family, with old friends. As I said a little bit earlier, like my friend circle has dwindled massively. And it's largely just down to me saying, I don't feel this is love when I'm in the company of these people. So, yeah, become really aware of what love is. Just you on your own. Don't worry about the dating. Don't worry about other people. Make it all about yourself, Katie. Let love in, just you on your own. Start with the food you eat. Start with what you're ingesting. Don't be on social media. Do you know what I mean? Social media is not going to be a loving place for you. Just choose things that feel like love like, read a book that feels really nourishing. Be aware of the content that you're ingesting. Are you watching the news? The news doesn't love you. You know? How you're spending your time. Don't drink too much. Don't drink at all, maybe. With all the energy work that we need to do to really, really let love in, I don't know if you can really drink a lot, if anything. So that's it, Katie. Protect yourself from people who don't love you. And you be the love of your life. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much for all your questions. There was loads of them. I was very impressed. It was such a pleasure to answer questions. It just feels so, I don't know what the word is, but it feels so connecting when someone asks you something and you feel you can answer it. I think it satisfies big parts of my personality to be able to do this. I have a Patreon. I spoke about it here. You can join. You can do a free trial. And basically, it's just a group. We're a community and we chat regularly. I host sharing circles and I teach stuff. And I have a podcast there that is only available to Patreon members. And we go deep on a lot of these subjects. It's not just Irish stuff. It's really just the spiritual world at large. I do one-on-one sessions if you feel like you could benefit from a chat with me. I have a course called Healing from Irishness. I have another one called Hacking Love. That's it, guys. I hope you're taking care of yourself. This is a beautiful time to, if possible, do very, very, very little. So take care of yourself. Do little. Relax. Slán. Love yous. Bye bye.